No.
Burden runs off my shoulder. How can I hurt what holding you? Warm, touching warm, reaching out, touching me, touching me. Times never seem so long.
Afternoon, everyone. Second webinar today. One of the new resource packs there, just playing along with a bit of Neil Diamond. So yes, welcome to this webinar. This is a focused webinar just on using the Skoogmusic sampler. I'm going to switch the view now so that you can see my screen and we can go through some things. The first thing we'll be making sure that you're set up and you can record and use all that stuff. But let's just, here we go, screen share, that's what I want. If anyone has any questions, please do just submit them via the Q&A panel at the side there. Let's start the screen share. And I don't need to see that infinite expanding screen in space. Let's just get down there. Oh, yes, but then how will I see the Q&A thing? There we go. Let's deal with that later. Okay, so here we are. And let's get rid of this page here, this page there. I do want to use the Skoog site a bit. So hopefully now you can see my screen. It's a little bit, a bit jumbled at the moment. So here we have Skoog. There we are. I was just playing along in B major with Sweet Caroline. Let's see if we can get this thing set up. Where's my mouse gone? Hello? There we go. So, Skoog software, open. You can see my Skoog. Hopefully you can see and hear me. First things first, where is the sampler? So the sampler is located through the Skoog window on this tab here with the little microphone icon on it. So if we click that, that brings forward the sampling page and has all the functions and stuff we can do there. Now the first thing we need to do is make sure that we can record. So on my machine, we'll just go in here and up to the settings. I'm using an iMac. On my settings, I've got it set on Soundflower so that you guys can hear me. But what you'll be looking for, importantly, is input device and input source. So you need to make sure, if you want to record sounds into the Skoog software, that these are set to the right settings for you, whether it's the built-in microphone or whether you have a microphone plugged in, and that should all make sense there. Just very quickly for people who are using Windows machines, and this is how it will look. Oh, got myself up. This is how it will look on a Windows machine. You have your audio driver, clock source, etc., output, playthrough, destination, so in-out vector size. So that when you actually, this is not the best example of an image. I'll get Keith to a different one. When you don't have it set to ASIO on the standard setting, you'll see an input device and input list. And just make sure you select the right input from that. So here we are. Here's the sampler. Now, what we have, just for a sample is a recorded sound, and it can be anything. First off, let's have a quick look at what resources are available for you on the Skoog site. History, window, Skoogmusic. There we go, that's what I want. So off to the home page, and it's taking a little time. There we go. And if we scroll down here to the resources section at the bottom here and go to sample packs, there we go. Then there's a bunch of things to download. Now I've just downloaded this feature download, the starter pack. We'll have a look at that later. But look at all these lovely, fun things you can download. There's pages of various sounds you can download, pre-recorded for you to use, and there's lesson plans and things like that as well. So that's all there for you. Those are great resources. So here's the sampler. So very quickly, when you put the sampler on, this button turns it on or off in terms of sound. If you record or drag a sound in, it will automatically do it. So let's start off by using pre-recorded or existing samples. So let's go to my downloads. Where are they? They're here. And we should have that starter pack. Where is it? Skoogmusic. Skoog. Oh, let's do it by date. Let's do that. There we go. Samples. There we go. So that's what I've just downloaded. Let's stick that on the desktop there. Close that off. And so this is the samples starter pack. Let's get a neater window. Pop that down here. So here I've got some animal sounds. I've got some what else have I got? Some backing loops, drum kit, female singing, and some sample sets. So let's start off with putting some animal sounds on Skoog. So here's my sound files. These are all .wav files. They seem to work best. And let's put if I wanted to put a donkey onto the Skoog, I just drag the sound file over. Before I do that, I'm just going to explain what you've got on the page with the Skoog sampler. So you have a color-coded sort of lozenge here for represents each surface of the Skoog, and what this is a buffer into which you load the sounds or record the sounds in, and then you can use them. So let's take the donkey and let's drag it onto the red side. There we go, and you can see the button turns on, it turns the sample on, and if I press red, which is over here, hopefully you can hear a donkey. There we go. So you can see the WAV file, you can see the sound, and when you click to play it, there you can see the playhead moving through the sound. So that's how you get sounds on. Simple, simple. Just drag it on. And what we'll do, let's put a few different sounds on just now. Let's put a cow on the blue. Let's keep duck on the yellow. Goat on green. And a pig on orange. So now I have a bit of a farmyard vibe going on there. So now we have a different sound on each side, in each buffer. Now, what are the other features that we've got here? We've got the ability to trigger the sounds or play them in different ways. That's what's happening up here. And you can see these are the different modes of the sampler. At the moment, it's just on trigger. If I go to press and hold with the hand with the timer on it, then it will play for as long as I'm holding it down. So if I have a longer sample, so this little pig has got a little grunt, and then a longer one after that. And then squeezing, allows me to move the playhead to squidge through the sound. So let's do that. It's a really good effect with voices and stuff. We'll come back to that. So those are the three modes that you can use. What else have we got here? We've got the sharp and flat button. So if I want to pitch it, so there's my donkey. If I want to make it higher, I can go up by semitones. There we go. And I can go down. Okay, do that individually for all of them. Other things you can do, we have edit buttons here, so I could highlight a part of the sound by clicking and dragging my mouse over it. So drag, there we go, and now I've just got, now it will also, with this sampler, it plays the section you've got highlighted. So if you just want one part of the sound, you can do that. And also you can edit, so if you actually say, I just want that in the window, then these trim to current selection, click, and there we go. And that's a useful one later. This reverses the direction of the sample. Which is quite useful. We've got some zoom buttons for looking at things. That's all there. Other buttons we've got here are these big red ones at the end, and those are the recording buttons in order to record sounds in. We'll come to that in a minute. I'm going to spend the first, well, next say 10 or 15 minutes, the first half of this webinar on just the functional, how do I use a sampler, and then I'm going to talk a little bit more about how you might use it with students, and we'll look at that, have a talk about that particular example and case study, the SD student in relation to using environmental sounds to engage. So yes, so those are record buttons for recording in, and down here is a clear button. So if I want to get rid of the samples that are in there, I can clear it, and then there's another one for restoring the buffers there. That's once we've got something in. This button here, this allows me to save the samples when I've got them in as a sample set, and that opens samples. So the other way of actually getting sounds on is you can click that and you can open a sample pack, sample sets, and if I were to sample let's put those some sort of congas on, let's do that, then it loads the whole set. The other way of loading a sample set is to drag it to, cancel that, samples, sample set, I made a bit of a mistake there. Got lots and lots. Okay, cancel you, cancel you, cancel you, cancel. There we go. So sample sets. Let's drag one on. Oh, we just did, didn't we? Try voice. Here we go. Oh, what's happened there? I think. There we go. There. So very easy to get sounds onto the Skoog. So the other way that you can do it is using the record function, and that's really kind of it's recording on the fly, and that's one that's really useful in the classroom. It's nice and quick and easy. Now, the quality of the recordings will depend on the quality of your sound card, microphone, and sort of associated things you're using to get sound in. But most laptops have got and computers these days have a built-in microphone that is usually pretty adequate. So let's clear these samples and let's record sound in. So to record in, I just click the button and then make a sound. Let's whistling, and then I click the button again to stop it. And that's actually quite important to remember to stop recording. Otherwise, you can fill up your machine and then it can put some demands on the processor there. So now in the red, you can see the sound file button. And then make a sound. Okay, so there it is. I want that whistly bit, so let's just highlight that, trim it. So now, there we go. Lovely. Now, I could record separately into each of the buffers if I wanted, or I can use this copy to all button, and that takes the one sound, loads it onto all the buffers, which is very useful. let's go to the squidging with this sound. This should sound quite good. So you can see as I'm squeezing the yellow there, it's moving the playhead and allowing me to kind of play around the sound. And if I was to pitch that now, follow keyboard, it's a bit high, we'll pitch it down in a minute, I can do that. So that's what this button does here, which is follow keyboard button. And that, as opposed to pitching individually, adjusting it there, if I click follow keyboard and then open the notes tab, then whatever I've got dialed into the keyboard will affect the samples. So let's drop that down. So I've put a major pentatonic kind of pitch spacing on it. It says here tonic is B, but really with the samples, it depends what you record in relation to the pitching. So if I was to sing in a perfect middle C, then all of the scales and stuff would be exact. However, I haven't. I've just whistled, a sound in, and this will not be exactly B. So you can use now the transpose slider and your ear to tune it really. So see, as I'm moving it, I can hear, and all the fine tune also works. So you can take sounds and you can tune them so they will be in pitch with something, but it does require you to use your ear, and you're better off using the sliders. The pitching will also work with note files. So let's have notes and transcriptions. Let's have a look at something we might all recognize. Nursery, MacDonald. Let's drag that note file in there. There we go. So we should have. Let's do a trigger so we can actually hear it. So actually, this is the slightly wrong sound for this. Let's just take the first part. So if I highlight that, trim it, copy to all. So now. There we go, and that's pitching on MacDonald. So that's all of the kind of buttons and what you've got going on. So you've got recording sounds in, dragging sounds in, editing the sound once it's in, pitching it. Again, you're either using the manual buttons here or using the keyboard, follow keyboard button, and going using the notes tab. That's just really useful, we've found. And that's your sort of standard operationally of getting the sounds in. Now, then there's obviously how you use those sounds and how you engage students with it is what we need to do now. Last thing that I haven't shown you actually is saving. So say you've got a set of sounds here and you want to save them so that you don't have to record them in again and keep doing that. Then down the bottom here is a disk icon, which means all of the software represents a save. So if I click it, I give the sample set a name. I'm going to call it Whistle, because that's what it is. I'm going to put it on my desktop, click Save, and then let's have a look. Where has it gone on my desktop? Let's have a look. Desktop, there we go. Whistle, there it is. So if I was to clear this now, clear, and then to drag it back, yeah, it's back. Now, the sample set that you save doesn't save the pitching. If you want to keep the pitches that you've got selected, then you have to save the associated note file. So at the moment I'm using a prelim on Old MacDonald. But if I wanted to, I could save this again. I could save it and say Old Mac Whistle. There we go. Let's put that on the desktop, and then let's put this back to just a major guitar, say pentatonic, and go back here, and let's take the follow keyboard off. So now we've got just that whistle again, and now if I'm like, well, I want my Old MacDonald notes that I saved, so Old Mac Whistle, drag that in here, that loads them in there, sample, follow keyboard, and There we go, and it's back. So that's all the operational stuff. Now, moving on to some ideas and how you can use it. It's a very simple thing. So this obviously doesn't have to be used for music. It can be used for all kinds of cross-curricular activities. You can put comprehension in there, use it for language, for numeracy. We can create a sequencing task. So let's create a quick sequencing task. Let's clear this and say, and let's turn that off. And then let's say head, shoulders, knees, and toes. So now we've got head, knee, and shoulder, toes. So the sequence task is, so now we say what order, we need to put these sounds back in the right order. So how does it go? So it's head, shoulder, knee, and toes, knee, and toes. And then we could write that in. So now let's write down the order of the colours and where they need to be played, and then you could use that as a score, and lots of nice stuff you can do there. So that's something we could do as a sequence task, or we could have different words to create a sentence. So something such as, hello, my name is Ben. So now, name is, hello, Ben. There we go. Now, so we've got these in there. So, but what I would do first here, if I was working, was very quickly, I'd remove the silence at the beginning there of each of these, so I get a more, because now if I press it, a bit of a delay happens. So let's just highlight that, trim it. Highlight the bit that I want, 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 and trim it. So now, hello, name. All right, so I want to put this into a sentence. So, hello, my name is Ben. Is name is my name Ben. Doesn't quite have the intonation of a question, but I've been able to create a different sentence using those same words. So again, combinations of words and nice exercises for students to try in terms of building sentences, exploring language in different ways. I must remember to do the stuff that's interested in speech and language therapy, so I'll try and squeeze that in at the end. So there's another example of something we can do. But what I want to focus on for next is exploring the voice. So let's just clear this, and this is I think particular relevance to working with autistic students, or particularly people who perhaps don't have great control of their voice in a communicative or creative environment. So, I mean, the human voice is an incredibly expressive thing. It's an incredibly powerful tool. For those of us who are lucky enough to have control of it, and we chat and we do stuff, and we do stuff all the time with our voices, and it's amazing. But for people who can't control their voices so well, and particularly those that have problems with language, then being able to give them creative power with their own voice, their sound that they're making, is incredibly important and just can have a real impact. So what I'm going to show you how to do now is to take a simple vocalization, something like ah, something like that, say, and turn that into an instrument which a young person could then use to sing with. Okay, and I really, particularly with the more expressive squeezing type of control, you can really sing with Skoog set up this way. And this is something that we found has been very, very powerful and used a lot. And then after that, in this webinar, I'm going to have a look at found sounds and talk about that ASD case study. I just want to check. So we're live. I just want, getting that funny screen thing. Let's just check the Q&A. There's no specific questions come through at the moment, so I will just keep going as I'm going, and hopefully everyone will be happy with that. So let's do this, putting a simple sound on the Skoog, a vocal sound, and getting that set up to be creative with and sing. And that's that thing of giving someone the power to be creative with their own voice. It will have a real impact. So let's just do that quickly. So I need to record. So remember, just here, click record. And the copy to all function only works with what's in the red buffer. So it's usually, if you're just going to be using a single sound and you're using that across all, record into the red one. So here we go. Click record. Like that. There we go. So I've got that. Let's have a listen. Record. So that's the sound that I want. So select and trim, and then copy to all. There we go. It's all on there. And now, so I have that. Now let's engage the squeezing function, and you can see the buffer up there. So I'm getting a real play with it. I can actually. Great. So now what I want to do is pitch it, so I can do something creative with it. So follow keyboard, and I'm going to just use a minor pentatonic spacing. And now let's bring that down a bit. And I can use the octave here. Bring it down. There we go. Or I could have used the transpose there. That's fine. That sounds good to me. So let's go back here. I want to go into poly mode, and now I should be able to. Sing. It's awesome. Can't get enough of it. There we go. So that's really great, really powerful. Again, adjust the sensitivity to get it into the right range for the so they can control it. But a really unique tool, very quick and easy to use. And again, remember, we can save this. So let's do a quick save. So let's call it voice. Let's call it R, because that's what it is. It's useful to have descriptive names for files. There we go. It's in there. So that's using the voice. But it doesn't have to be a vocal sound, it can be anything. And but before we move on to talk about that case studies, very quickly, let's talk about some stuff that might be of interest to speech and language therapists, which is looking at vowel consonant trusting. All of this, the sampling where you're using this tactile interface to manipulate sounds, and particularly if they're speech sounds, then that is of use to you as a speech and language therapist. You can set up all kinds of exercises, you can play on things, and you're just increasing the feedback, you're augmenting the environment, you're providing more stimulus, more sensory information, you're closing the loop and just really supporting the whole process. So, do make speech and language therapists aware of the Skoog if you have one, and I'm sure they'll find many uses for it. So one thing just quickly that some people have been trying is looking at vowel consonant transitions. So let's clear my Skoogie again here. Let's take the pitching off, and let's have a word which has got a good boundary transitions like steel. Steel. There we go. Now there's my word. I can see it. Let's just go back to trigger. So triggering. Steel. Right, so I'm just going to highlight the bit that I want and trim it. There we go. Steel. Now I'm going to put that steel. Let's put it on the top one so you can see. I'll copy to all, but ignore these other ones. And that's actually there's a little trick that I'm doing. There's a little tip. When you have sounds on and you perhaps want to not play them or mute them for a second, now you can either go into the settings and turn those sides off, and blah, blah, blah. And that's fine. You can do that. No worries. But the other thing you can do quickly is if you just click in the window so that it's nothing highlighted, then you see as I'm pressing it, there's no sound. Okay, no sound coming out. So I highlight the bit that I need to play. Then if I highlight that, then steel. There we go. If I press any of these other ones, nothing's going to happen because nothing is highlighted. If I want to engage them again, I just highlight the steel highlight section there. So that's a nifty little shortcut. So I've got steel here on my orange. Steel. Now if I go into press and hold mode, now you see it had a little load kind of progress thing. You do have to wait for the buffer to sort of re-engage. So now it's gone a bit funny, that one, hasn't it? Let's try it again. Let's try, great. Graham. 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 There we go. Graham. Let's just do it quick. Now, one thing you can do is if you click in the window to select and hold down Shift, as you would like, selecting anything. So then you can click to select like that. So Graham. Try a different one. Something a bit harder. Toucan. That's a good one. Oh, there. That's going to work. So now we should have toucan. There we go. My sound seems to be playing up a little bit on here just now, but what you were really looking at there is being able to move through the sound and then play around with that transition between, say, a vowel or a consonant, or other kind of. You can look at expressive parameters. You can look at prosody. There's all kinds of stuff that you can do there as well. So I hope that gives you an idea of the kind of manual of the manual task of being able to use the sampler. But what I want to just talk about now in the last 10 or 15 minutes is this idea of sounds of special interest and using found sounds. So this is from a case study that's available on our website. Let me show you where it is. Let's pull up the Skoog site here. And if you go down to the bottom of the Skoog site, it's a bit slow. Here we go. Bottom here in the footer, case studies. And this one is documented there once the page loads up. And it's case study 2, Isabel Ryan Centre. It's one of the clients in there. So just this one here if you want to download it or review it in more detail. So, and there's actually, there's all kinds of case studies available on the Skoog site. And one thing I do want to give a big shout about, and I'm going to be doing a lot of these webinars recently. Well, not recently. I'm going to be doing a lot of these webinars in the future. Is all of these resources that are available to you as Skoog players and Skoogists and Skoog practitioners. There's over 100 songs that have been transcribed by Maggie. She's working hard putting all these things up. Samples, there's lesson plans. There's all kinds of resources available to you, and they're available to you for free when you have a Skoog. So I think that it's really important to remember that all this stuff is there for you. So that's just the case. Let's get rid of that now. So what we're talking about, and this was a project that Lewis Forbes, who's a great Skoog practitioner, a guy he's been doing years now, but this was one of the first pieces of work he ever did as part of his degree actually at university. And he was working with a group of young people, and this one chap, he couldn't get him to engage with the Skoog, which is I think it's rare, but it happens. And the chap was really more focused on mechanical sounds, particularly the door handles, and he would move between these two doors and flick the handles. So these kind of repeated kind of focus behaviors, very much it's the individuals sort of creating a controlled environment for themselves in sound by repeating the kind of making a kind of creating a consistent sound palette, which they're in control of. And sometimes people now do this by scrubbing through in YouTube, scrubbing back, going through, and just repeating the same little clip. They're controlling their sensory kind of environment, as it were. So, and when you have these kind of mechanical interactions, so like with door handle switches often, and they make a sound, it has that kind of sensory element in terms of the feedback and stuff. And what Lewis thought, well, he seems to like and focus on that handle sound, and so what Lewis did was to record the sound of the handle onto the Skoog. And so you can do this, so he did it when the chap wasn't in the room, and so we're going to record. I'm going to do a clap to simulate it here. So we'll just click record and go. So we've got a bit of a mechanical. Well, we've got a clapping sound. So now I have put on trigger. Yeah, so we have that click clack, okay, on there. And so recording that environmental sound, that sound of interest, that sound that the individual is focusing on, or the sound associated with the object or whatever it is that they are doing. And then we have that in Skoog. And what Lewis found was that he was able to then engage this young man in touching the Skoog, because he was showing him that that sound is here now. And the young man was like, okay. And he then touched the Skoog. And that was a big step forward, and that was one session. And then we followed on from that. He followed on from that with then pitching, so then putting the sound all around the Skoog. You can do this in stages, introduce it, have it just on one, then have it on all of them, and then start to pitch it. So you start to be able to create a palette of more musical sound. And then what Lewis found is that he went, by the end of the final session, he'd managed to engage the young man in playing the Skoog instruments. So by using the sound of special interest, by using that environmental sound of focus, he was able to engage the young man in interacting with the Skoog. And once he was comfortable interacting with the Skoog, he was then able to move him on to instrument sounds and to start exploring those and start playing. So for some of our students or young people who are difficult to engage, hard to reach, then this is a way in sometimes of trying to find one of those sounds that they focus, that they resonate with. And it extends even to music, in many ways, that it often is about finding music that resonates with an individual, music that they want to play with, sounds that they want to engage with. I mean, that's one of the great things of the versatility of something like Skoog, that has a range of sounds, is be able to find the one that's going to fit for the individual and really kind of make that connection. And it's the same in terms of the material we work with. So having the right songs, whether it's a bit of Disney or something, a bit of Neil Diamond, like I was playing at the beginning. I love Neil Diamond, and if I can play Neil Diamond and Skoog, I'd get more pleasure out of it, because I'm playing music that I want to play. So I think that's a really, it's really important, a really key factor in using any technology in terms of making music and engaging young people, is try and work against yourself. Work to do music that they want to do, or that is relevant to them, or stuff that they want to play, and that's half your battle. And once you've got them engaged, then you can start getting creative and doing all kinds of things. So it's a shorter webinar today, a bit more focused. I'm just wondering whether there's anything else that I should be showing you in relation to sampling. No, I don't think so. I think that's it. Let's check the message board to see if there have been any questions logged again. No, I haven't got any up in my Q&A section there. I'm going to move that back down before we get a crazy window into the past there. You might be interested, if the internet seems to be cat crazy, we did a Cats and Clavier thing for a reviewer yesterday. Cats and Clavier, for those of you who don't know, is the mythical organ which has got cats that get prodded and they make a sound, and you can use that to play. But obviously with Skoog we can do a very humane Cats and Clavier. Remember, let's do that now. Let's just do it quickly. So all you need is a meow sound. So I've got a meow here. I stick it on. There we go. And we've got a meow and a copy to all. There you go, and I can pitch it and play with it. So it's a very quick Cats and Clavier thing that we did. There's lots of animal sounds. Actually, maybe we should explore a little bit the resources again, and just have a quick look. Let's just go here and go Window, Skoogmusic, to see what other sample packs there are. Here we go. There's all kinds of places to get free samples and loops online. I do think creating your own, recording your own stuff in is really important. You can also use, if you have one of those handheld MP3 recorders or data recorders, then you can go out, record stuff, bring it back in, clip into USB, and upload them onto the machine, and then drag those in as well, so you can get out of the classroom, or bringing those nature sounds in. So by using sounds from the environment, oh my mouse just fell down there. There we go. And poor little kitty. You can make things more relevant to the individual and more focused, and then again that helps with engagement, and it also helps with the the sensory focus and all those kind of things. Let's have a quick look. Skoog resources down the bottom, sample packs. So what have we got here? Oh, I know what I was going to do. I need to have a look a bit at some longer sounds. So nature sounds, female voice, great sample sets. We should talk a little bit about sample sets, I think, again. I know I mentioned them briefly at the start, but let's do that. Farm animal sample set, Congo sample set. Okay. So what you have there is a bunch of things to download. So sample sets are a group of samples that have all been assigned to a particular surface on the Skoog. So a single sample is, just samples, stick with animals. It's named elephant. Let's put elephant on there. It's a bit pitchy because it's like that. Elephant. Whereas if I want to have a sample set, then in the sample set, when you save it, let's make our own. Let's make a jungle one. Monkey, tiger. What else can we put on here? Frog, a bit jungly, and let's put a wolf in there as well. So now we've got a jungle set of sounds. Can I say jungly bookie? So I want to save that as a set. There we go. Sample set jungle. There we go. Save that. Now, if I have a look at my desktop now, where I put it, there it is, jungle. So in there, if you open the folder, you'll see it's got blue. It labels each of the WAV files. So you don't have wolf and all this kind of stuff here. It just labels it by color. That's how the software knows where to put them. So we can take that and drag it in here. Now, if you'd been doing recording, well, let's do that. It doesn't matter. Let's record and have denied, and the arsonist had oddly shaped feet, and hello again. There we go. And let's save that. So I'm just saying some random things. Let's just call it samples. The thing I want to show you now is some people ask, well, what if I wanted to? Oh, I've just replaced that whole samples pack. Oops, never mind. So some people say, well, I'd like to get that what I've recorded into the blue, but I want to put that I want to change that and put that on the yellow. Well, then all you would have to do is save this, and then if I go into samples and I've got where did I put it? Where did I put it? Oh, maybe I didn't overwrite it. Let's save this again. Then. Sample. Let's put sample desktop. There it is. So if I go in here, I've got blue, green, orange, red. So if we've got blue one here, I want to put that blue one on my green one. So you just drag that says blue to green. I've got some on each. So you can see you can play around with those things, but you will need to save. If you've recorded sounds in, you need to save them as a sample set first before you can start moving them around like that. Unfortunately, at the moment, you can't drag from within the sample buffers to other buffers. You have to do it via saving out and doing it that way. So that is a useful setup there. So that is sampling. Oh, another thing I wanted to mention is something. So these again can be used quite a lot in music therapy, not music therapy, physiotherapy. You can use music therapy as well. But for physios or OTs, one thing. Really simple use of Skoog, but really quite effective, is saying, well, what we're going to do is going to put a song that you want to listen to on the Skoog. So let's find something. Let's have a look at my resources. There's not going to be anything there. I'm going to go into my Dropbox. And if anyone doesn't use Dropbox, you should get it. It's free and it's an amazing, amazing resource. Demo tunes. Look there. Let's put this one on. Now, the length of sound you can record in or load into the sampler isn't limited, but it is limited by the processing power and RAM of your computer. if you have enough space, you could record loads of long things in, but it will. The more audio you put into it, the harder it's going to be working your machine. So do bear that in mind. I'm going to drag this thing that says D major in there, which is, and let's do a little short piece. And let's and the one might take a little while to load in. Oh, there we go. And you can see there that I've dragged a WAV file into one. And I've dragged, I'm going to just change that to press and hold, an MP3 into one. So that will accept those. And that's a whole tune. Let's put another tune on green. You see, it takes a little moment to load in. Okay, there we go. Now, so what I was going to say, listen over. Anyway, I'm going to clear those, and I say, well, we're going to put the song you want to listen to onto the Skoog. I'm going to put it on the orange, just pop it on the top there. And then what you can do is say, if you want to, so as a kind of a motivator, so the song is the motivation, so I want to listen to that. So you can say, well, in order to listen to that, you need to, if it's in this press and hold mode, press and hold here being the one in the middle, then it will only play if I'm holding it down. So if I want to listen to it, I have to, and if I take my hand off, it stops. So if I want to listen to it, I have to hold it down. Now, and what I can do here now as well is reduce the sensitivity to make me work harder to keep it playing. So we can start off with it set very gently. So now, just rest my hand. Okay, and then another session as we move through. I might have to press it really hard, and the beauty of something like Skoog, the working in this area, will be that we can go to the advanced settings and we can get the number. So we can get a number for what the sensitivity was set at. So it might be set at the beginning of a session or beginning of a term period or a period of work with the client at something high, like 7 or something. Let's go here. So there we go, at 6, say. And then if over the course of working I have been able to achieve the same effects but with a reduced sensitivity down to 1, then that gives me a measurable outcome and something that I can document, and it's quantitative hard data that I can use to talk about the progress of my clients. So that's another useful thing you can do with sampling in relation to kind of applications in physiology. And do keep an eye on my blog and the various pages. And we're going to be doing some tips for physios and OTs. There'll be some speech and language stuff going up there soon. And just do look at our resources there. There's lots and lots, and it's free. And I'm going to be back online, I think, is it next week? I'm not sure, I'll have to ask David and the guys upstairs. We're going to be doing more and more of these, and we're looking for the input. What is it that you want help with? What is it that you'd like to know? Email us or scribble on our Facebook page or tweet us, and I will get online in my little video booth of joy and do the stuff. Okay, so I think it's only fair, because I've been working hard and telling you all about sampling, that I get to have a little fun. So I'm gonna play us out now with a little more Neil Diamond. Let's go to the Skoog page and see. So I brought us in with Sweet Caroline.